Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. This evening, we're talking about executive functions, a crash course for parents on how to help elementary students with organization and study skills, elementary and middle school students. My name is Ann Dolin, and for the last 24 years, my tutors, executive function coaches, and college counselors have been helping kids to do better in school. And to improve those executive function skills. So tonight, before we get started, I have a question for you. I'm wondering if your student is in elementary or middle school. So you're going to see a poll pop up on your screen in just a second. And if you could designate the grade levels of your child or your kids, that would be fantastic. Hopefully that will pop up. There it is. Okay, so that's our school level poll. Is your child in K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, or another? Terrific. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. It looks like 3rd to 5th grade and 6th to 8th are dueling it out. All right, awesome. Okay, so it looks like just by a tad, the majority of parents here have kids in 6th to 8th grade and followed by 3rd through 5th graders. And that makes sense because we see as the work gets increasingly harder and there are more demands of kids, that's when we see issues with executive function skills. But don't worry, we've got help tonight. Let me introduce to you Jan Rowe. Jan is an amazing person and an incredible executive function tutor. She is our very top-rated full-time tutor here at Educational Connections. In fact, she's been with us for 9 years, and by day, she works with homeschoolers, and after school and in the evenings, and even on weekends, she works with elementary, middle, and high school students. So Jan actually has a bachelor's degree in education and accounting, and she's a former public middle school teacher where she taught in Florida for 13 years. All right, Jan, welcome. So glad that you're here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for asking me to join you tonight.
Absolutely. So let's kick it off by talking about executive function skills and what exactly are they? So in your mind, you've worked with tons of kids over the years. What does it look like when kids are impacted by executive function weakness?
So it can be quite a struggle for students whenever they are, struggling with the executive function skills. Things just are a little bit harder. They get a little bit more frustrated. And so, working with them and showing them strategies just really changes everything around for them, and that they start to enjoy school a lot more and they start seeing success.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. So what exactly are executive function skills?
So what we see when we're working with students, we see, anything from just, the one skill that we want to work on, maybe just planning, just maybe organizing, but it can be any of these skills where students are having trouble with just being able to start an assignment. To be able to organize, and plan for projects, being able to monitor themselves, when they have their assignments done, when they need to, maybe review a little bit more for a test. And then also just being able to control their emotions whenever they're starting to get frustrated. I remember whenever I was in school, I would get, frustrated in with some of my assignments, and it was really hard for me to move forward. So, giving them some strategies so that they feel comfortable whenever they encounter some of these executive function skills that are causing where they're having a little bit of a hard time. It just helps them so much more.
Great. That's great, Jan. Yes. And in fact, for tonight's purposes, we're going to talk about the top 3. And that have the most to do with academics. There are actually lots of executive function skills, as Jan mentioned, that emotional control, she just said, self-monitoring, which is really hard for kids. That's the ability to reflect on something, organizing their materials, putting down one thing, shifting to another, working memory. which we see a lot of. And working memory is not your short term or your long term, but your ability to juggle multiple things in your head at one time. This is really hard for kids in writing, for example, because they have to think about what they want to put down on paper. Did they use a capital letter? Are the words spelled correctly? Is the grammar correct? What about the punctuation? All of those things are swirling in their heads. So that's working memory. But for tonight's purposes, we're going to talk a lot about getting started, which is initiation. We'll talk about inhibition, and that's your ability to block out distractions and focus on what you need to do. And then, as Jan mentioned, that planning and organization. So Jan, I'm curious, you talked about this just a second ago, but tell me again, what are some symptoms that you see? Can you think of a student maybe that really struggled with these issues? And when you first started working with him or her, what were some things that you saw?
So, and I see this quite a bit, and it is where they are having a hard time understanding time management. So understanding how much time it takes for them to complete assignments, and thinking that it's only going to take them 5 or 10 minutes when it's going to take a lot longer to complete some of the assignments. Also, having difficulty prioritizing some of the things that they need to do, things that they need to work on. A lot of students will pick maybe their favorite subject, and they, wait till the last minute to do their least favorite, so they don't get time to do it. Also, just finding time they look at maybe studying study skills as, something that it's not really homework, so they don't really carve time out for that. So those are some things that I work on with students quite a bit. And then also the organizing their materials, and organizing and planning their time so that they can get things done.
Jan, one of the biggest changes in elementary education I've seen in the last 10 years has gone from kids having an hour and a half of homework in elementary school to virtually none. How has that, but the executive function weakness can still be there. How does that manifest itself if parents aren't always seeing homework come home?
Yeah, so whenever and a lot of the students are, like you mentioned, are not getting the homework that they did. And whenever they are not getting the homework and they don't get the practice time to do it, it's really difficult for them to do it whenever they do get the assignments. And then also whenever they're at school, they're not practicing how to get their assignments done in a timely manner. So it might take them a little bit longer. As a coach, if they don't have homework, then we will go through some of the skills that they are working on in school so that we can practice that at home, because we know it's extremely important, because it's going to take them, into middle school, take them into high school. So it's very difficult for a student when they're not getting that practice to do at home independently, for them to be able to transfer it and do it at other times.
Wow, that's such a great point. And I think sometimes as parents, we breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, no homework. But on the flip side of that is when there's no practice, it hits kids really hard when they even get a small amount of homework, that's for sure. So whenever we're working with kids, parents call our office every day, and our most requested area is executive function skills. And kids have come to us at all different levels, meaning that sometimes kids want to learn the skills to improve, to make their lives easier, but sometimes kids are super resistant. Jan, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the stages of change, what the stages of change are, and how we use it as a diagnostic to really understand where the student is starting.
Absolutely. One other point from what we were just talking about, I wanted to bring up that we see as coaches. Before COVID, there would be projects that the teachers would assign. And then during the COVID period, teachers weren't assigning the projects. So the kids weren't planning out their projects. So now we're seeing where the kids are having that difficulty because the teachers weren't doing it before. So now whenever you have an elementary going to middle school, those are definitely some of the things that we were seeing as changes as coaches. But absolutely, this is one thing that we do as coaches right at the beginning when we start working with students. We do an assessment to determine what stage a student's in. We have the 5 stages here, and pre-contemplation is the first stage. And we have some students that come to us at this stage. And this is where you, I will talk to a parent, and a parent will say, you know, my child can't find their assignments, they can't find their laptop, they can't find their charger. It is just chaos in the morning. And then I'll talk to the student, and the student's like, I can find everything. I don't know what you're talking about. And they just, you know, look at me like, that's odd. And so they're just not ready to see that there's an issue for them. They're just not ready to make any changes. And so we see some students that come in at that stage 1, and then stage 2, we will see students that are, okay, I do see there's an issue. I'm constantly forgetting my charger, and I'm embarrassed, or, you know, I'm not getting my homework done, and they're ready to talk to you about it. So they're like ready to acknowledge, okay, yeah, I do have a problem that I really want some strategies for. And then the third stage is where you have students that are ready to make the change, and they're like, okay, I am been doing this, I've been reviewing my study guides, or I've been reviewing for tests in a certain way, but it's just not working, and so I am ready to get a strategy that's going to work for me. And then stage 4 is the students that are taking that strategy and actually applying it. They spend it takes a long time to actually get from stage 3 to stage 4 to get, you know, through stage 4. But this is where they are ready to take that strategy, apply it over and over and over again until we get to the last stage, which is the maintenance stage. And that's when they see a strategy that has been working and they are applying it consistently, and they're actually forming new habits. And so as a coach, we will assess the student to see at what stage they're in, and then that helps us to be able to help them and come up with strategies to move them to that top stage.
And what's interesting about this, and what I love about the assessment, is it assesses stages of change for different types of things, like for organization, like the missing laptop and the charger, versus you know, knowing how to study. Because what I've found over the years is that kids, sometimes they might be a 1 for certain things, but they're like a 3 for other things. And that kind of leads me, Jan, to the question from Marnie. She said, there's an issue, but I don't care. She says, how do I help with that if the child doesn't seem to care? Because I know you get kids, and it's a little bit different than a parent helping with these things than a professional coach. How do you deal with that?
Right. So, and I do have that happen, and a lot of families have this happen. So you're definitely not alone. And as a coach, what we typically do whenever I see a student, and that's definitely at a stage 1 student, and they're just not ready to move forward. And so what I usually do is build a relationship with them through, you know, finding their likes and dislikes. And then as I'm going through learning about what they do. So I'll say, you know, okay, I understand that you feel like you've got your own system. So tell me what your system is, so that I can learn more about their system and what they think is working for them. And then as we get into maybe the second session, then maybe I can start making some suggestions. And then they'll go ahead and say, okay, well, maybe I'll try this. And then I know that I can, you know, try some strategies. What has also worked with students, with parents, is trying to take one little piece of, you know, like, depending on what the situation is, if they say, you know, they don't care about maybe like a homework assignment or, you know, certain things, like if all the things are, you know, scattered throughout the house, then coming up with, you know, a reward system. And this can be anything from, you know, something that they enjoy doing at school, something they enjoy doing with their friends, something they enjoy doing with their family. But the most important thing is just taking a little, trying to make little changes, not big changes. You know, like if the particular situation is about not being able to find their assignments or find their charger, it's okay, let's just try putting the, you know, just the charger here, and just start off extremely small. So that's usually what we do as coaches, is just start very small and then work our way up.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan. All right. And by the way, we're here to help. So if you're experiencing these things with your kids, we're more than happy to talk to you and see if we can assist, see if that type of assessment and type of executive function help we're going to talk about a little bit later would be beneficial to your child. And you can hold up your phone, pull up your your camera, and scan this QR code. It will take you to our calendar, and from there you can schedule a time to talk. So Jan, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about one of the biggies, which is organization and prioritization. Can you talk a little bit about this skill in particular? And from there, how do you form a habit when it comes to being and staying organized?
Yes, so organizing and prioritizing their assignments. So what I have found with a lot of students that I work with, whenever I, you know, have my coaching session with them, they don't know what they need to get done. So they are, you know, I think I have a test, I think I have a homework assignment. They have a lot of things going on in their mind, but they don't know everything they need to do. So the first thing is trying to just organize what they need to do. And then after that is prioritizing what they need to get done. And then going through, you know, what's most important. So if we're going to have a test, so we need to prioritize that. So going through those skills with students over and over and over again helps them to be able to say, okay, yeah, I do need some type of system here on keeping track of my assignments, or a way for me to organize what I have to do. What I like to do right when we first start is, okay, let's just take that 5 minutes and let's figure out what we need to get done. And then let's go ahead and start tackling everything. So kind of planning before you start.
I remember, Jen, you said something to me. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. You said, you know, I tell my students, we're never starting with a subject. You're not doing math, you're not doing English, you're not doing science, you're not doing history. We're starting with organization. And that just really stuck with me, how you said each session I take 5 minutes and we prioritize, like what's on the docket, what are the things that need to get done. So that kind of becomes a routine, that this is what we do at the beginning of each session. So when you sit down for homework on your own, this is how you get started. It's not with math, it's not with science, it's with your little priority list. How do you form those habits over time with kids, or how can parents help form those habits?
Okay, so this is probably my favorite part here, is the habit formation. Absolutely love it, because when I started working with families on habit formation and explaining the habit formation loop, it's a 3-part loop that you have. And it is, you have to have a cue, you have to have a routine, and you have to have a reward. So you need those 3 pieces. So a cue is a trigger, something that's going to tell you that you're going to do something. A routine is something you do over and over and over again. And the third piece is the reward. So I'm going to give you an example of how I go through with some of my families. One is, for example, a student comes home, and this is something also adults do. You come home and you want to have a little snack. So you have a snack, And then right when you're finished, you're like, okay, what do I need to do? Well, if you came home from school, oh, I probably need to get my homework done. So that's the trigger. After you had your snack, it triggers you, okay, now it's time to do my homework. Then you do your homework, get your homework done. That's a routine that you do every time you come home from school and after you've had your snack. And then the reward is, and we want it to be an internal reward. As we get older, those internal rewards feel really good. We feel successful. We feel like we have everything done. But sometimes when they're younger, like the elementary and middle school students, they need a little reward that's something else. They need maybe, okay, if I get all this done and I do this, then I can have, time with my friends. I can watch something on TV. I can play some video games, or it could be something, I get to, have, friends over the weekend if I get the entire week done. So with my younger kids, I tend to, we come up with these types of rewards together. And as we do that, and they do it over and over and over again, then it becomes a habit. And it's something that they are always doing. I also talk to the students and the parents about, this is not something that your coach is just talking about and having you do in 3rd grade, 8th grade. This is something we want you to do for the rest of your life. These are some of the habits that are going to help you be successful in college, help you be successful out in the workforce. And so whenever I explain that to the students, they're like, oh, okay, this is, something that's going to help me in college. It's not something, no. And so it's something that they do over and over again. And so I can get them to buy into it, like that. But and then also the last piece is that we, as we were talking earlier with a parent question, is starting off very, very small. Seeing success really helps build that habit and change a habit.
And in a perfect world, this would be automatic for kids. They would come home, they'd have their snack, which would be the trigger then to sit down and do their homework. But the reality is that doesn't always happen. Let's talk a little bit about some kids that you've worked with over time and the issues that they've had and how you've dealt with that. And what I'd love to do is start with your student, Mark, the 3rd grader. Tell us about his old habit and then his new habit.
Okay, so this is a student, and I have quite a few students that I'll talk to parents and they'll say, of course, in the morning, or at any time, we're having a hard time finding the homework assignments. They do all their work, but then they lose it. They can't find supplies that they're needing to take. They lose backpacks. And so what I suggest is there's a couple of strategies that have worked for most of the kids that I work with. One of them is the checklist. We'll start with the checklist. The checklist is where you can use a dry erase board and come up with a list of everything that they need to do. And they write it on the dry erase board, and then it can be put in the spot where the backpack and all their supplies need to go. And then they can go through the list and make sure that they have it, and they can just check off what they have or what they need or what they don't have so that they can get it. There is also the launch pad, which is the one that really helps quite a bit. And it is where they come up with a place and they call it their launching pad, and they keep all of their things in that one area. And what I suggest to the parents and the student is that we come up with a time that you can do it every night. So for the habit formation piece of it, so for example, what seems to be the time that's best for most families is right after they eat dinner. So right after they eat dinner, they go to their launch pad and just make sure that they have all of their things that they need, that they have their backpack, all the supplies. And then as they do that, the more they do that, the quicker they're going to be with that habit formation. And again, that is something that we do as adults, right? We always put our keys, hopefully in one spot, or we put the things that we need for the next day in one spot. And so those two habits, strategies that we use tend to help most kids, and they tend to find success pretty quickly with that one. That's one that I start off with because it's quick and kids do it, and it's so helpful, and the kids feel happy. So,
and the parents do too. I know that's the truth. Jan, let's talk about Susie, the 7th grader. So talk about her old habits and her new habit.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of parents can relate to this one, and because I hear it all the time, especially when the kids start getting older, they start pushing their homework later and later and later in the day, and to the point where it is so late that they are so tired and they can't get their homework done. And it tends to be something that's a constant struggle with families because they're saying, did you get your work done? Did you get your homework done? And it's just a struggle between the parent and the child. And the kids are, always weighed down with, I have to get my homework done. I got to get my homework done. And so they get through the whole entire evening, not doing their homework, but not being able to do things they want to do either because they have the homework weighing on them. So what I do in this situation is I talk to the student and tell them the earlier they can get their homework done. And this doesn't mean that it's the exact same time every day. It's more of the earlier you can get it done, the faster you get it done. So when I started telling students that you can get your homework done in probably half the time, the earlier you do it, than late at night. And I go through and they're like, I don't, how does that work? I said, well, first of all, you're not tired. You're not tired. Second of all, you remember most of what you did in school the earlier you do it. And so you can get it done very quickly. And so kids, still resist it. And I said, let's just try it twice a week. Can we pick 2 days to do this? And then they start saying, wow, it does, because I'm able to get my homework done and I was able to prepare. And then I was able to I was able to do all these other things. I was able to do things with my friends, and then the family struggle does not continue as much. So this tends to be something that I see a lot with as the students start getting older and older. And the earlier we can get them doing it earlier in the day, will hopefully keep them doing that when they get into high school, and then definitely into college.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jan, because I think sometimes as parents, we focus on the stop time, like you better have that homework done, or I want your homework done by 10. But we're really focusing on the wrong side of the equation. It shouldn't be about the stop time. It should be about the start time. And that's actually the more effective approach. So thank you for that. So let's roll into how sessions are structured and a little bit about the 4 steps that really contribute to a student's success, starting with what you always believe is true in the beginning of a session, and that's not to start with any subject, but to start with your marching orders. Tell us a little bit about how you set up your sessions.
Yes. So the very first thing that I do with all my students is, what do we have on the teacher websites? What do we have on your, I have them pull up their grade book, and I also have them pull up anything their teacher has put out there, if it's the website or if it's in Google Classroom. So I have them pull that up. They, one of 2 things, they can write on their dry erase board that they have, the actual dry erase board, or we put the assignments on the whiteboard on Zoom. And so we will list all the assignments. And then after we list all the assignments, and again, this is going through and putting everything that they can see that's coming up, a test, a project, and then any missing assignments that they may have in the grade book that we're aware of at the time. Then what they do is they're able to, and if they do it on Zoom, they're able to move the assignments around and prioritize them. If they do it on their whiteboard, they can number them, or they can just move them around. And so then what students do is they either take a picture of the one that's on the computer, or they can do a screen print. And so that helps the parent see, okay, these are the assignments that you need to do. So it helps show the student, but then also the parent doesn't have to always be, well, what do you have for homework? What do you have for homework? What do you have for homework? They could just look at the list that the students already formed. And so that's the first step.
That's great, Jan. So tell us a little bit about what comes next in step 2.
Okay, so as we were, writing down, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that we talk about, we will prioritize, but we also want to talk about, how are we prioritizing? If there's a test on Wednesday, there's a test on Thursday, but there's also a project coming up. What we want to do is we want to, break those assignments down and then prioritize and make sure that we have the list that we need to do and that they feel that they have everything covered for the upcoming tests or projects.
And then what does step 3 encompass?
Okay, so then we jump in to getting these assignments done. So we look up and we want to see, okay, what do we need to start working on? And as a coach, I want to make sure that if they are, they are having trouble in one subject and they might not want to get to it if they're on their own, I want to make sure that I'm helping them get started with that assignment. If they don't know how to do it, modeling what I would do in that situation. But what I want to do here is I want to spend a bulk of the time, most of the time during that session is doing assignments, getting assignments done, showing how that they can start their assignments and getting as much done as possible. And this also shows when we're doing it, how much they can get done during a session time and how much they can get done during a period of time. And then it also makes them more aware of, how much time they need to put into an assignment. So as we're going through it, they may have thought it was only going to be 5 minutes, but we're working on it and we're working hard together and it's taking about 20 minutes, 15 or 20. So it helps them say, okay, I know it's going to take me a little longer. So that's what I want to show them during this step as we're working on the assignments.
I like the part about modeling, because I think sometimes as parents, we say, go do your homework, just finish it, do that now. But sometimes kids don't know how to do it well. They'll slap some answers down and get it done, but what is the quality? And I like that part about modeling, because you're thinking out loud. How does that work in a session? And why is that important for parents to know about?
Yes, so this is really one of the most important pieces of the session, is modeling, because a lot of students, for example, writing is a struggle for a lot of kids, especially the younger kids, because they just don't know how to get started. And so what I do is I just say, okay, this is what I would do if this was my assignment. This is how I would do it. I would, write this on here. And the student immediately starts feeling a little bit more comfortable. Oh, okay, I could do that. And then they write it down. And so where we're talking back and forth, and then the student will say, oh, well, I didn't realize that's what I needed to do next. I didn't realize that was what, okay. And so I just model that for a few sessions. And then usually the student's like, oh, I'm going to do it first. I'm going to do it first. I know how to do it. But going through and doing the modeling, I think it just makes them feel a lot more at ease and more comfortable asking questions. And then for the math side of it, we're also able to write down some steps for solving some of the equations, because a lot of kids won't start with their math because they might not know how to get it done. And so writing down some of the steps together helps them be able to do it, on their own, independently. But then they also feel more comfortable, getting it done with me.
Yeah, that's always so helpful to give the kids, to really ask them what assignment's keeping you up at night, what's the hardest for you, and to model how you would go about it, getting it done, and then have that discussion and help them to finish it. They just feel like it's time well spent. They've got something productive done. So lastly, this last step is to really reflect. And this is part of that executive function skill we mentioned in the beginning called self-awareness, which is actually self-awareness is one of the last executive function skills to come online with brain development, because you have to be able to think back and think what worked and what didn't. How do you use this reflection piece of self-awareness to end your session?
Right. So at the end, I just talk to the student and we go through what do we do during the session? What do we get accomplished? What worked during the session? What was something that that they felt was working for them? Then we also want to reflect on things that they may have struggled with, or something that they feel like they are might have trouble doing on their own. So that would be something that I can help them with some strategies. Okay, well, if this is what you're struggling with, then this is what these are some strategies that you can use. So reflecting on what we did and what they felt was successful and some things that they need to work on. Also, during the reflection time, it's okay, we got this done, but what do we still need to get done? And what do you need to get done before maybe the next day at school? What do you need to get done before our next session? So those are some things that we're discussing during the reflection piece.
That's great, Jan. Thanks for that. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of outside help. I know that certainly learning these skills leads kids to success later on, but how does it take the parents out of the equation?
So this, and I hear it all the time, and parents are like, I suggested this and I suggested that, and but they're just not listening to me. And so I think it's hard because you're, as parents, you have so many things that you're doing, and then that one little piece is hard to get the students to buy into. But whenever a coach is there and a coach is confirming what the parent was saying, it kind of gives it more, oh, okay, yeah, my parents said that too. I guess I'm going to go ahead and do it. It's probably something that's going to work. And so so that I think helps parents, because you have somebody else outside coming in and saying, yes, your parents are correct. These are some strategies that are going to work for you. And this is how it works. And this is how it works for other students. So us as coaches have that benefit of working with other families and working with other students and being able to say, yes, I worked with another fourth grader and this was very successful for them. So that piece helps. And then it helps, where we get to, as coaches, be the one that helps with the homework and be able to help them come up with strategies so that they can feel more independent. And I feel like a lot of the students feel that way when they're working with coaches. They're like, okay, I've got control of this, and I can do this, and then my coach is here to help me. And so it really takes the parents out of it, and they feel like, that's one little piece that they can let, them work independently on.
That's great. Thanks, Jan. I know we're going to get to resources, and I know you have some new things that you want to share with parents specifically for this year. But before we get there, I wanted to give everybody out there our contact information again. And if you'd like to schedule a consult to talk about your child's particular needs, we're happy to chat. So Jan, you've been so great. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to get to your things in just a second. So hold on. I want to let everybody know that we have some other workshops coming up. We have one that Kathy Gould is doing for high school students on executive functions. That's August 30th. And then September 14th is SAT, ACT, or Skip It, the role of college entrance exams in a test optional environment. All right, so Jan, let me turn off our screen share in just a second, and can I flip it to you so that you can share the resources that you have for parents?
So I believe I can go ahead and pull up. Okay, here it is. Okay, can you see my share screen? Okay, yep. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to share. So some students, I work with quite a few students, and they're, they like the agendas, and they are not giving out they don't give out a lot of the agendas. Some schools do, some schools don't. I wanted to just share with you, there are online agendas that students can use. I have quite a few students that are using these, and you can get this at Teachers Pay Teachers. If you haven't gone to Teachers Pay Teachers, there are some things that are free, but most things are probably between $3 and $5. But you can get this for, I think, $4.50. And what is really great about these, you can edit it, you can change it. They can put their assignments in here. They can modify it. It can just be a blank page. But the great thing is they can share it with you, and you can go on and see what they have listed for their homework. And this is also something, if they are working with, most teachers do already, they already have these notebooks for them. But if you have a child that is not, the writing is not working for them, they can use this and share this with their teacher too. So it's like an online notebook. If you want to, move them to just typing for their assignments. So that is one thing. But then I also wanted to share with you some supplies that are very popular, and what a lot of the students that I work with are very successful with these supplies. One is the accordion binder here. If you haven't seen this, these are great for organization. And it has, when you open it up, it's got just enough little sections for all their classes. It also fits a pencil pouch, their little supplies they could put in the back there. And then they can put stickers on the top of it. Kids love this, and it helps so much with organization, and they keep everything in one little like folder. And you can get those at Staples, but they're also on Amazon for different colors and things like that. The other one is the dry erase boards. Like we were talking earlier, if you want for your launch pad, if you want to have a dry erase board there for doing homework, the dry erase boards are great. These are like, I think $15 on Amazon, and they have their own little erasers. They can also fit these small ones inside that accordion folder. So if they have to take, if they want to take some to school, they can do that. But sometimes parents will get the bigger ones, and the kids, they just don't take them everywhere with them. So the smaller ones tend to be the better ones for the kids. And then there's also the erasable highlighters. These right here, the Crayola, are my absolute favorite. I stick to I love these. Every family that I've worked with, they get like a whole entire box of them, because there's so many things that they can do, and they are easy to erase whenever the students are going through their assignments. But they also have a new kind, and they have colors. And so you can get those at Amazon also. So the last little one is the time timer. And this you would get at the time timer website. And they have it at Amazon, but they have you buy certain things like the time timer that fits into the dry erase board. You have to buy that separately now. But the dry erase board here, so they can, it helps with their time management, along with, listing all the things that they feel like they need to do and check off. So this, I think every single 100% of my families have purchased this, because I absolutely love it, and it helps the kids quite a bit. And then there's two sites that I would recommend. If for example, what we were talking about, if they don't have homework and you still want them to work on skills, there is a site, it's called Academics. And when you go to Academics, it's free. This is a free site. And like all sites, they'll put up there for paying, but you don't have to pay, it's free. And if you go to games, they have all the addition, subtraction, multiplication. They have integers on there for the higher middle school. They have language arts skills. They have spelling. It has so much stuff, and kids absolutely love it. I had a student that was in one of the upper elementary grades and was having a hard time with multiplication. Spent one summer on this site because it's all games that you play. It's games, and the kids love it. They're little video games. And so he learned all of his multiplication in one summer. And then we also have a Generation Genius. This is a site that you would eventually have to pay for, but they do give you 5 free videos. And if you have a student that struggles with math, it's a great site, or science. It's math and science. But the math piece of it, they show you how to do it. And then what I absolutely love about it is at the end, they show you how the skill, the job that you can have. So it's real life math. And so it comes full circle for the kids. Like whenever they're asking, why do I need to learn this? Then whenever you show them that video, it shows them 3 jobs that they would, need that skill for. And so it's one of my favorite sites. So if you do like it, they do have a membership. But those are some of my favorite sites to share.
I love these, Jan. One mom asked, with the Teachers Pay Teachers site with the digital notebook, what is that called? What should they type into the search engine?
Okay, that is, let me get that. I'm going to pull it right back up. Hold on one second. And it is called the Digital Interactive Notebook. So Digital Interactive Notebook, and I think it has template at the end. And when you do that, it will, here, and I'll show you what it looks like at the beginning. So you can see this picture right here. And you'll be, and it's $4.50. So I looked that up earlier. So that's $4.50. And if you just put that in, okay.
That seems worth it. Thank you for that, Jan. So a couple of questions from parents. B asks, my 7th grader will make a plan, but won't look at it. We'll spend lots of time talking in between activities, tasks, which then leaves us with no time to do fun things. So basically, we've seen this before. Kids that make these plans and then just don't act on them. And then another parent said, oh yeah, my 7th grader does that too. How do you deal with kids that have those issues?
Okay, and again, this is very, very common in middle school. I do have to say that it's great that they're coming up with a plan. So what I usually do is I have to come up with something that's going to reward them for one little piece of what they do. So like we were saying earlier, like if they have 5 things on there and they have a hard time getting, that they're going to have a hard time getting through 3 of them. Let's just start with 1. Our expectation is that you get 5, but if I can see that they're getting 1 done, and then we can give a little reward, and then maybe the next time we can go with 2. So coming up with a plan is the first piece, which is great. And then I would say after we come up with a plan and I see that it's not been working, I want them to pick what we're going to get done. What can we get done here? And I kind of give them choices. And start, where they feel like they're taking ownership of what they're getting done. Okay, well, you want to, let's work on the math. Okay, so let's work on the math assignment tonight. And then, praising and then, having some rewards for getting that done. And then the next time, let's go to, trying to get 2 done. But again, giving them choices on what they feel like they can do just to get them moving through that process. And then, depending on the family, little rewards go a long way. And I know that you're probably doing that. But that's usually what I, end up doing with them, coming up with, because I have a lot of little games that I play. So with my students, we want to get A, B, C, D, and E done. All right, when we get, I'm gonna let you pick 2 of them. You pick 2, we're gonna get that done. And then we can play this little 5-minute game. And so it tends to keep them going a little bit more. And then let's do 2 more and we can play a little 5-minute game. So that's usually how I do it.
That's great, Jan. And one parent said, you can't always reward everything. And I think it might be a little bit different in the situation of rewarding with get these 2 things done, and then we're going to play this 5-minute brain game.
Right.
Is different in a session than at home. You're right. You're not going to say, you get these 2 things done, I'm going to take you out for ice cream. That's just like overkill. We don't want to reward kids all the time. Instead, like you said, praise goes a long way. I can see you're working hard. That's awesome. I see that you got that assignment done. Just acknowledgement can be a reward too, in a way. Can you talk a little bit about the role of rewards? And it doesn't always have to be something that the child gets, a physical thing.
Oh, absolutely. So, and, I've talked to a lot of families about this because, when they're trying to work independently, this is what's going on. So it can be, anything that is, okay, you did a great job on this. So, tomorrow, how about we come up with, another strategy for, doing this assignment? Or, what is something that would make this easier for you? How can we do that? If it's, another time during the day, things like that. So, praising and, but I think whenever you're trying to come up with other ways to do it, having the kids buy into it and saying, okay, what do you think is going to work best for you? And then if that's what's going to work best for you, let's try that. And then have them see if it's going to work for them. And then say, okay, if this doesn't work, then can we try this strategy? And so I'm going to let you try your strategy first, and then we'll try this strategy. That is definitely something that, I like to, especially with my younger students that I work with. If I just put up a little smiley face and a little star, I mean, they're just super excited about it. So and so I don't have to give them anything or play a game. My middle school students are a little bit harder with that, but definitely we don't want to start with giving them things. We want to start with the least that, just the praise, because we want the expectation that you need to get it done.
Right. It's kind of like, this is your job. You're a kid. Your job is to go to school and to follow through and do your homework. They shouldn't expect a reward each time. I agree. All right. Donna asked, what do you suggest for students who are on their cell phones? Do you take it away until everything gets done?
This is a very difficult, one. And I know it's a parent. This is what I say to the students that I'm working with. And this was, before COVID, when I was in the home. And what I would tell the students is, now I understand that you don't want to be missing out on anything. So you can have the phone here, turn it over, and we're going to work. And then as we get, A, B, and C done, I'll give you a minute if you want to look at your phone, or a minute or 2 minutes. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to have to, keep the phone at another location. And that, whenever I told them that, it's basically giving them the choice. This is what you do. And then, if this doesn't work, then we can't have the phone with us at all. And so if it's a distraction, then we definitely need to put it away. But if I can work it out with them, then I'm okay with them having it there. And then they know that it's not too far, because young kids, the middle school, they really get nervous whenever it's in another room. But I definitely feel like if it's a distraction, then we're gonna have to put it away.
Thank you, Jan, for that. We had another question from a parent, and she asked, how do you keep them away from computer games? I guess this during sessions, that's easy to do. Do you know of anything that's worked in families for parents that have really tried to limit video game time?
This is so difficult. And yes, a lot of families have, I've had parents, tell me that, they were, actually trying to get on video games during the sessions, things like that. So a lot of the families have they've had to put, time for certain sites up, and they have to block those sites, and then they have to, and so that has worked for a lot of the parents. And again, explaining, okay, because you're getting on the video games and doing this, I'm going to have to go to this. And so whenever I've talked to the student and said, okay, this is happening, I've talked to your parents, this is happening because you're not getting your homework done, because you're, looks like you're doing your homework, but you're actually playing video games, then, they're going to need to put some blocks on there. And, it depends on the student. Sometimes they're, I don't want them to put the blocks on there. So they will get their homework done and then get permission, or, try to, see when they can get back onto the video games. But then the other, a lot of parents are having to put the blocks, and that's actually been working because they have to have a code in order to get to certain sites. And so whenever they do that, and I believe it depends on your system, but a lot of the parents that are using the codes to go in, the kids can't go in onto the video games. Hope that helps.
Helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Jan. Well, we're about at the end right now. So thank you, everybody, for joining us and talking tonight about executive functions. Thank you to our guest, Jan Rowe. You've been terrific. I hope that you all have a wonderful school year, and if we can help at all, feel free to drop us a line. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so much for attending.